Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Truth, lies, shenanigans. 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 It's the TLS show, coming to you live from the TLS show. It's the TLS show, coming to you live from the TLS show.
Hey, my friends, welcome back to Truth, Lies, Shenanigans, your live streaming podcast where your favorite hosts bring us the most interesting topics of the week to discuss and ask the question, is this truth, lies, or shenanigans? And of course, we always try to have fun with shenanigans of our own along the way, with amazing guests, games, and spirited conversations. My name is Neo Nix, and for today's show, another COVID Chronicles with returning guest, Dr. Marjorie Simpson. She's joining us to tell us what she's seeing right now in the nursing homes more than a year later, and how COVID, along with the Omicron and Delta variants, have changed her experiences. Our main topic today will be the man who made history surviving a pig heart transplant. And in Quickfire, we're talking kids evicted from Ronald McDonald's house, Joe Rogan's nonsense, and school counselors offering little girls Spanx. In Shenanigans, the game show, it's the Wheel of Truth. All right, before we get into the show, let me introduce you to our amazing hosts for the next hour. We've got our professor. Sorry, we've got a professor, journalist, editor, sport. I know, right? I need it. Professor, journalist, editor, sports intern, mentor at ESPN out of Washington, D.C., Miss Lizzie Enders. Welcome, Lizzie.
What's up? What's up? Happy Sunday, fun day, everyone. I hope you guys had a great week. Like Neo said, there's a lot of COVID, and Omarion got to represent for the culture. We call it Omarion on this side of the country. But hopefully you guys are staying safe, and just, continuing to practice your social distancing. Just a quick update about what's going on here in Washington, D.C. It's snowing again. It's
is.
snowing again. Woo-hoo! So we are on our
For half an
second
inch.
snowstorm of the season. So I am so excited because, before I moved back, let's see, maybe 2 weeks ago, I moved back to DC in 2019 and we really had no snow. So I'm very happy that we're starting to get back into the season, winter. So everyone be safe, stay warm, don't go outside if you don't have to. Whoop, whoop.
Great. All right. Then our gamer, tech guru, bona fide rock star with a rock band Fallen Machine, coming to you from Sudbury, Ontario, Mr. Rob B. Rob.
Hey. What's up? What's up? Like Liz was saying, happy Sunday fun day. It's great to be back. Got another great show, a lot of great topics to discuss. I had a wonderful week also, despite the fact that it was really cold in Sudbury. We were seeing temperatures around minus 30 degrees. But I took the opportunity to do something,
right, Ellen?
right? But I took the opportunity to do something that I have only seen in videos, where you take a container of hot water and throw it into the frigid air. And I posted it on the TLS fan page, and the results were fantastic. I was so thrilled, and just to see and hear that energy exchange happening around you, it's almost surreal. When you do, Jose did it also. And the first time you do it, you're just kind of like, wow, I just made a cloud. What the hell?
That's so cute.
I'm surprised you haven't done it before.
It's
Yeah.
honestly, it's one of those things that I had just seen, and when I posted it on my social media, I see that other friends and family who never tried this before have gone out and tried it also. It's,
Wow.
minus 30, minus 40 isn't an average temperature, and you need the right conditions in order to do it. So when we get that deep chill, bundle up and go have some fun.
Well, there are
I
some
love it.
silver
I
linings
love
to
it.
30 below, I guess.
I love it.
Well,
I
there's
love
cool
it.
things that you can do.
Yeah, there's a few. There's a lot of things you
A
can't do
few.
too.
It's like
There's
the
a
only
lot.
one.
There's a lot.
All right.
There's a lot.
And today we have our college student, guitarist, and aspiring comedian coming to you from the campus of the University of Maryland, Miss Ellen Dahl.
What's up,
Hello,
Ellen?
hello. I think every time I've been on this podcast, one of my roommates has gotten COVID. There's no more roommates to get COVID anymore. It's killed itself out in this apartment, except for me. So fingers crossed. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm like Liz said, I'm enjoying the snow. We don't really get it anymore. I feel like I'm
Yeah.
a kid because last
been a
10
while.
years we don't get snow like we used to. So yeah,
Mhm.
I'm enjoying it from inside with my potential looming illness. So fingers crossed.
Fingers
No.
crossed. Yeah, you don't want that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
All right.
running out of fingers.
now, Gianni is not here today because she's gotten so busy working with Olivia on their new podcast, Beyond the Scars. It's an amazing new podcast where the ladies sit with real people who have real stories of tragedy and hardships and speak on how they have persevered or even thrived beyond the scars. Their next episode drops on Wednesday and features Nisi, who tells a difficult story of molestation by her grandfather and how she coped with that experience. Don't miss it. Subscribe on Spotify, Facebook, Google, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Just go to www.beyondthescars.show for more information. All right, it is time for our quickfire. All right, in Quickfire, our hosts have some topics they want to share, but we only have 3 minutes to discuss and 1 minute to hear from the audience, so type your comments fast. Any topics where our hosts won't shut up, we've got the dreaded mute button, and they can save their comments for the after show. So let's do it. All right, I'm up first today. The past week, we saw middle school counselors in Mississippi sending a home letter to parents titled, "Why Do Girls Suffer from Body Image?" stating, quote, "Body image is a measure of one's attractiveness and often emerges as a desire to adhere to an ideal body shape. Girls are more likely to have a negative body image than boys. Girls with a good body image are more likely to have good physical mental health." And it ends with, "We, the counselor of South Haven Middle School, would like to provide healthy literature to your daughter on maintaining positive body image and also providing girls with shapewear, bras, and other health products." So, my question, are these counselors idiots with good intentions? Or is this just another example of over-sexualizing our girls? I actually want to start with Ellen Dahl. What do you think, Ellen?
Oh my gosh. All right. I love to see the progression of the way that we handle, girls being over sexualized in school. It's like first we're not allowed to wear spaghetti straps because, shoulders are the ultimate sin. And then we have to come in wearing like Kim K Skims or whatever. That's insane. That's so crazy. So that is reactionary, right? You're taking care of a problem, you are trying to paint over the problem. So, give them things that temporarily make them feel better, which was going to make them feel worse. They're like, how you
Yep.
could help your body image by continuing to
To
change
point
the
out
way
their
that
body
you
image.
to point out your body image. Yeah, so I think that's absolutely insane if that were to be rolled out to, I can't imagine when I was 16 if that was the solution. I think that's terrible. I think it's
Yeah.
a terrible idea. I don't know who did
Robbie,
this.
what do you think?
Good intentions, poor implementation. Because, like Ellen was saying, body positivity, body image issues aren't corrected by altering your appearance. They need help overcoming what the media projects on them, what the media tells them they should look like to be beautiful. I agree with education and literature, but I don't really agree with the shaping garment. If my daughter would have shown interest in this kind of program when she was in middle school, I would have had a long talk with her to collect her thoughts about the letter and if she has any body image issues. Yeah.
All right, Liz, what do you think?
So one, I do appreciate that they sent a letter out first versus taking it upon themselves to just start giving out Spanx, Skims, whatever to these young girls. But I am highly offended by this,
Mm-hmm.
especially since they are assuming one that young men also um that young men don't also have body image issues,
Mm-hmm.
but
Hmm.
also that the body image issue deals with being overweight, deals with slimming down, deals with needing a waist trainer and things like that. Listen, growing up, I was the skinny girl with big boobs. My legs were sticks, were toothpicks. And people used to talk to me about being skinny, being olive oil, the black olive oil with boobs. So none of this body shaping shit, shapewear would have done anything for it would have fallen off of me.
Yep.
So yes, I
All right.
too had body image issues, but they weren't being addressed.
Yep. All right.
Yeah.
So
Get
this
to these
is
comments
not the
real
way to
quick.
go.
Jacqueline Robinson says there's a reason that Mississippi is near the bottom of virtually everything, including education. Jose
Every,
says,
everything.
Thanks for kids. What are we teaching these poor
So
kids?
ridiculous.
Yeah. And my quick comments, I actually, I think I'll talk about this more in the after show, but I think it's absolutely ridiculous that
Yeah.
we're trying to solve a problem by trying to fix the problem. The problem just needs to be addressed with society, not with the individuals. So,
Yeah.
all right, that is it for that
Oh,
one. All right, let's see. Is this,
hold
let
up.
me do it. Is this true, lie, or shenanigans? This is ridiculous. This is absolute
This is
shenanigans.
shenanigans.
Uh-oh.
Shenanigans.
Lies and shenanigans.
I got you with lies, Ellen. You say lies and shenanigans,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
My
Lizzie,
point is
Lizzie is saying
the
bullshit.
idea is bullshit. The idea is bullshit.
Yeah,
The
they made a
idea
mistake
is
here. They
bullshit.
definitely made a mistake here.
But again, like I said,
Mhm.
thankfully they sent a letter first. They sent a
Yeah,
letter first.
I'm glad that I agree with you on that. The best to good to send the letter first and ask. Of course, it had sizes, requesting sizes, thanks and everything on it. Anyway, all right, let's
So
move on. All right, Ellen, you want to talk about Joe Rogan's antics? Tell us about it.
Yes. Joe Rogan, the most phallic looking person. His
Phallic.
podcast has been the most popular podcast
for
for
those of
many,
y'all who
many
don't
years
know what
now.
phallic means, she's saying he looks like a penis. He looks like a
Yes, he does. He,
penis.
look at that dome. Come on now. He's had a range of guests from Elon Musk, who smoked weed on his podcast, to Alex Jones, who said that Sandy Hook was a hoax on his podcast. But in the last couple of years, he's used his platform to criticize the vaccine and the general public's response to COVID, which he thinks is overblown. He's given a platform to a slew of COVID deniers and anti vaxxers, two of his most recent guests comparing the pandemic to the Holocaust. And a couple of days ago, he had an argument with a guest on his podcast about the risks of the vaccine. And when he was proven wrong by research, they pulled up on the show. He questioned the credibility of the source. Given that Joe Rogan pulls in 11 million viewers an episode, 270 medical professionals published a letter on Monday urging Spotify, the platform that hosts his show, to stop enabling its hosted media to encourage distrust in science. So my question to you is Joe Rogan a necessary independent thinker, or are his unfounded opinions harmful to the public?
Lizzie.
Do I think he's a necessary independent thinker? No. Do I think he has a right to be an independent thinker? Yes, with restrictions.
Mhm.
Especially in a private environment, because Spotify is a private company, so they have the right to shut him down if they want to. I do think,
Mhm.
to the latter point of your question, I think he's dangerous. This is no different than Donald Trump and what we saw on January 6th, 2021, with the insurrection. Someone putting out a bunch of misinformation, false statements, and then their followers grasping onto that and then taking violent action. So I think he's very dangerous.
All right, Robbie.
Very dangerous.
I think that, yeah, Rogan is an example of when censorship and fact checking needs to occur. Trump found himself canceled because of his lies, misinformation, zero ability to fact check himself. And in my opinion, if you have a platform, you owe it to your audience to be informed and to not provide harmful information. But like Liz was saying, as a private organization, I find it interesting that Spotify has removed other episodes from hosts on its platform where COVID misinformation was spread, but they haven't done so with Joe Rogan. And they've also removed some of Joe Rogan's episodes that had conspiracies, misinformation, but not his anti-COVID stuff. It's
I will
shitty.
say 11 million downloads is pretty powerful financially. So I'm not surprised that Spotify is acting like this. But with that being said, he could go on any podcast platform, just like we are. We can go on any platform. I mean, if they move us from Spotify, then we still have Apple Podcasts, we have Facebook, and all the other platforms. But 11 million is a lot to fight with. What were your
But also too,
Ellen? What were your thoughts? You have give you 15 seconds. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I used to listen to Joe Rogan like 4 or 5 years ago when he would have, he was a really popular interviewer. People really liked his interviews because he would have people on and he would get them to talk. But I think he's totally bonkers. Like he is off his rocker. And I think that so many people look up to him because he's fit and he's successful. He's the highest paid podcast host ever. And they look to him and eat up everything that he says. He has a lot of really dedicated listeners, amongst my age group at least. So I think, like Liz said, he has a right to be an idiot, but I think that Spotify should step in somewhere. Like you said, they've removed some of his podcasts. They've removed over 40 of his podcasts. So yeah, I think that they just need to be more consistent with that.
Yeah. All right, quick comments online. We've got Jose. Oh, Lizzie Enders said, most phallic looking person. Ha. Jose, it's not about giving the right information. It's all about money. She agrees with Ellen Dole. All right, so.
and that concept should piss us off because we haven't yet been flagged by Spotify, right? TLS has not been flagged by Spotify yet. However, we have been flagged by Facebook on numerous occasions, YouTube, TikTok, for the most innocuous things, the most innocent things. And then here you have this guy spewing out all of this misinformation. It's ridiculous.
All right.
Again,
Is this truth,
it's all bullshit.
lies, or shenanigans? The truth, lies, or shenanigans? Lies.
Lies.
Lies
Oh
and
yeah, where's
shenanigans.
my lies? I had a
Lies
lie
and
one.
shenanigans.
That one works too, Liz.
Oh, the
Yeah.
devil is full of lies.
Yeah.
The devil is full of lies.
All right.
Put Joe's face on there.
Put Joe Rogan's face. All right.
Oh, Rogan.
All right. We've got Robbie. Robbie, you're up next. What's up with Ronald McDonald?
All right. So earlier this week, Ronald McDonald House Charities in Vancouver, BC, sent a letter to all of the families of patients that a vaccine mandate would be in place as of January 17th. For those who don't know, Ronald McDonald House Charities gives families a place to stay together close to their sick children in the hospital. So those are some really sick kids. And the vaccine mandate covers staff, volunteers, and families at Ronald McDonald House. Interestingly enough, patients and family members under the age of 5 who cannot get the vaccine are not included in this mandate. So the corporation does offer a grace period for families where if they were already at the Ronald McDonald House, they had until January 31st to get their first dose. So now the bad news is that 4-year-old leukemia patient Jack Ferguson and his family are having to move out of Vancouver's Ronald McDonald House because their parents choose to be unvaccinated due to religious beliefs. The father, Austin, from Kelowna, BC, took to Twitter when challenging the staff on the eviction notice. And in his Twitter rant, he starts the video and describes the situation while unmasked in the hospital, calling the letter an eviction notice. And during his confrontation with the video, his mask is hanging off his nose. The good news is that they have a new location. The Easter Seals house does not require the Kelowna family to be vaccinated. Do you agree with Ronald McDonald House's decision to relocate non-vaccinated families?
All right, let's start with Ellen. What do you think?
I think that given, given the fact that they have a grace period, I don't think that this was meant to screw people over. It's really clear that, they have to be, you can't have people who have a higher risk of getting COVID around a bunch of sick people. I think it's understandable, short and simple.
All right, Liz.
People are so fucking selfish. It really pisses me off. This is a charity. Ronald McDonald House does not owe you a goddamn thing. This is a charity. They're doing something on behalf of not only this man and his family, but tons of families with sick children, children who are immunocompromised, who are at risk, who are easily susceptible to infection. How dare you? Like, how dare you? How dare you? And I'm not saying, sir, that you need to necessarily go get vaccinated, but you shouldn't be bitching if they ask you to, for the sake of everyone else who is in the same situation as your child.
Yeah, we
How
see this
dare you?
time and time again. It's
Time and time
extremely
again.
frustrating. Extremely frustrating. What were your thoughts, Rob?
Well, Ronald McDonald House is working with each family to accommodate them and to help secure alternate accommodations. And so I really resent the way that the father took to Twitter and started this campaign. He also started a fundraiser where idiots gave them $150,000 when everything was still being taken care of. So they pocketed 150 grand from the anti-vax
See?
community.
See?
So,
See?
and really,
See?
my challenge is directly to the father. So if I understand correctly, Austin, you have an immunocompromised child who is receiving scientific treatment for their leukemia, but you refuse to protect them by not getting a scientific vaccine or even wearing a mask properly. You also don't
Good point.
feel a sense of responsibility towards the other immunocompromised children in this facility. Please make it make sense.
All right,
I want
let's get to the
hear from you.
comments. Jose says, my parents stayed at the Ronald McDonald House in Toronto when I was 4. This story breaks my heart. No respect. And George Fournier says, good point, Liz. Jose says, louder, Robbie Rock. Louder. Louder. All right, so is this truth, lies, or shenanigans?
Okay. Wait. Oh, so my
No, I want
shenanigans
Liz's bullshit sign.
Shenanigans.
Yeah,
and
this
bullshit are on the
this
same
selfish
board.
question.
Shenanigans and bullshit are on the same board in the Newman household.
Smart.
In the Newman.
I wonder why.
In the Newman household. So, all right. Those are good topics. Thank you, Robbie, Ellen. Perfect. All right, and we'll get to the main topic a little bit later. But for now, it is time for another in our installment of COVID Chronicles. There's plenty of lies and misinformation in coronavirus. So Truth Lies Shenanigans brings you the truth. Stories directly from the people that lived it, frontline workers and survivors. This is the COVID Chronicles. Hey, today we have joining us again Dr. Marjorie Simpson. She's a board-certified geriatric nurse practitioner with her PhD from the University of Maryland, and she works at several nursing homes in Maryland. She actually joined the show in our first season, episode 38. You can watch that on YouTube, Facebook. Check the link in our description. Dr. Simpson, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So my first question, how are you and your family, Lisa and Liam, holding up?
We are doing fantastic. We're all triple vaccinated at this point. We're all healthy and enjoying that snowstorm in Maryland.
Yeah.
Snow is falling. All right, so now the last time you were here on the show, there was no Delta variant, no Omicron. And although your nursing homes were doing better than most, you definitely painted a tragic image of what you were seeing in the nursing homes with difficulties getting basic PPE, personal protective equipment, COVID testing, and people dying before their time. So what are you seeing now?
Now that we have the vaccine, I'm seeing a very different picture. I currently have a COVID outbreak in one of my nursing homes. I was there making rounds this morning. I have 9 patients who have COVID, and they're all vaccinated except one, and they're all doing really, really well. So I think that now having access to the vaccine, as well as having better access to PPE, has really made a difference in the nursing homes. There has been a bad outbreak with the staff in that facility, as in many other facilities. And when a staff member tests positive, they have to go into quarantine and they can't work. So we're seeing staffing shortages in
Staffing
nursing
shortage.
homes,
Can
as well as
imagine.
the hospital. I also work in an acute care community hospital as well. And, doctors, nurses, people who have to be out of work because they've tested positive.
So are you seeing fewer people dying early now?
I think that we're still seeing, um, what we're seeing is we're seeing unvaccinated people dying.
Mm.
Um,
Okay. Okay.
I on the acute care side, all of the seriously ill COVID patients that I have seen, that I have treated, who have passed away, were unvaccinated.
Mm.
People who are, maybe they've had one or two vaccines, they're not triple vaccinated, but they've had something, and they have some underlying health problems like lung disease or heart disease. They're a little more seriously ill. The patients who are triple vaccinated are doing very well. We're not seeing them because they're not coming into the hospital.
Now, when you reached out to me, there was something specific that you wanted to discuss. What was that?
Mm.
I do. And, one of the things that I do on the acute care side is I work as a palliative care nurse practitioner. And in palliative care, it's healthcare services that are aimed at optimizing quality of life and mitigating suffering in people with serious and complex illnesses. And I also help people with advanced directives and with their goals of care. One of the things that we see when someone comes into the emergency room with COVID in respiratory distress, they're in crisis. They may have some delirium. They may be confused. They may need to be intubated very, very quickly. We don't know sometimes if they have a next of kin, if they have a healthcare agent, if they have an advance directive. So very quickly, we're trying to help people determine, who is that person that you can trust to help you make decisions if we have to intubate you and you can't speak for yourself.
Okay. Now, Robbie, you had a specific question along these lines.
Well, it's yeah, it's more of a personal kind of thing. Just because I live with my elderly father, or actually he lives with me, and I do have power of attorney, and we have a living will in place, so that if ever we're in a situation where those tough decisions need to be made, I'm enabled. I'm empowered to make those decisions. Um, but from a financial perspective, I know that what we also did was, when I became the power of attorney, because we have a good family dynamic, my father opted to include me as far as any ownerships or accounts. So my name is on the house, my name is on the car, my name is on his bank accounts and his investments. So that way, if anything were to happen, it's simply a matter of presenting a death certificate, and not a matter of having to go through that rigmarole and acquiring all the accounts. Just administrative, and I mean, it reduces administrative costs tremendously down the road. Now, I live in Canada, and I'm just wondering if that's also similar in the States.
In the United States, you can develop a medical power of attorney, and that's someone who makes medical decisions for you. You can also have a financial power of attorney, and that's someone who can access your bank accounts, someone who can help you pay bills, someone that can um, um, take money out of the bank for you, open a bank account, close a bank account, and handle the financial side. So there's, two different types of power of attorneys. Sometimes people have one and they think they have both, but they just have one of the other. And it's really important for someone like yourself who's taking care of a parent who's older to have all of those things in place. It's easy to access those forms. There is a website called caringinfo.org, and there's also advanceddirective.com, where you can go on and click on your state and download for free the advanced directive forms and the power of attorney forms that you need. Print them out and complete them. You do not need an attorney to help you do that.
And for our audience members, I just posted those links in the Facebook chat.
The only thing that you need when you're establishing your advanced directive and your power of attorney is you'll sign the form after you fill it out, and you need 2 witnesses to witness your signature. And the person who witnesses your signature cannot be somebody who is listed in that form. So if you make your sister your power of attorney, she can't be a witness of your signature. Grab a neighbor, grab 2 friends, have an advanced directive party where everybody, fills out their advanced directive together. And then once you have it, make a copy of it. Give a copy to the people that you have listed as your medical power of attorney. Give a copy to your doctor. There are websites where you can register your advanced directive online. Some of them are free. Some of them do have, a charge, but it can be accessed in any state that you go to, which might be an option for someone who does a lot of traveling, particularly for work or something.
Yeah. My grandmother, when she was the end of her days, she was struggling with pneumonia. She was intubated. She had trouble talking, and she had a power of attorney, a medical power of attorney, who helped her make decisions, medical decisions for her, as to whether or not she should get certain tests, whether or not she should have certain medications, certain procedures done. So those were very important to her health care. So Lizzie, did you have any questions?
No, I just want to first to thank, Dr. Simpson for giving us that information. And to say to Rob, like, I think in the States, it's not necessarily what's available. It's that a lot of citizens, a lot of people that live here don't have the information, or they don't want to talk about,
Dying,
their parents
death.
dying, medical history, things like that. Both of my parents have passed on, and my mom died, in 2013 and didn't have a will. My sister, Jacqueline Robinson was her power of attorney, but we didn't know where a lot of her insurance papers were, or she didn't specify, you know, specifics about her care or anything like that. So thank you, Dr. Simpson, for providing that information, because we've seen with, COVID over the past 2.5 years, you know, um, a lot of people dying abruptly and not having a plan, not knowing about insurance, not knowing about, even before they die, what type of care, your loved one wants. And then you see a whole bunch of GoFundMe's at the end, once the end is near, people trying to catch up on that. So I appreciate the information, Dr. Simpson. My question to you is, and this is kind of like a non academic question, just a personal question. How tired are you and your staff? Because we're only year 2.
Yeah. I think the staff is absolutely devastated. I think that they are exhausted. It is tremendously sad to come into
Yeah.
work, and we are seeing entire families in the hospital at the same time, husband and wife in rooms right next to each other on ventilators, and their adult children are making the decision to pull that plug and take them off of life support, and having to deal with a double funeral for both parents.
Wow.
And that is just, it's devastating to family members. It's devastating to the staff, especially when we're seeing, 70 to 75% of the people that are hospitalized because of COVID are unvaccinated when that vaccine is
So it's preventable.
available.
We're saying it's
I
preventable.
was heartbroken this week when one of the patients that I was following, who has a wife and young children at home, and I knew he wasn't going to make it, and he didn't, and now those children don't have a father anymore.
Yeah. Ellen, we have a
It's
couple of minutes left. Did you have a question?
Yeah. So Dr. Simpson, my sister is a registered nurse at the surgical ICU at Johns Hopkins. So a lot of the stuff that you're telling me is resonating with the conversations that I have when she gets off work, and she is just so, I mean, like you were saying, like what Liz asked, you guys are like, this is an exhausting time for you guys, especially because healthcare workers have this empathy to feel for their patients. My sister is a brilliant, empathetic woman, and she goes into work and she has to tell tell the children of parents that their parent has died when it could have been prevented because of the vaccine. So, this isn't the first time we've had preventable illnesses. We've had, people die of lung cancer all the time. People have diabetes or other problems due to personal choices. But does this feel extra discouraging that we have so much information about these vaccines and people aren't taking them? I mean, so many deaths could be prevented right now. I guess my question is kind of similar to Liz's, where how my sister's been a nurse for a couple of years. This is all she knows is COVID. But as someone who's been in this field for a long time, how does this feel different from other preventable deaths that people have had?
over the past 2 years, I've never watched so many people die. My specialty has always been dealing with older adults and in long-term care settings. And I am used to people getting sick and dying. And let's face it, every single one of us will take our last breath someday.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one of us will. It's going to happen.
Yep.
And I am used to having maybe 1 or 2 deaths a month, but having so many deaths so quickly, and that's all that we're dealing with. It's exhausting. And right now,
Yeah, I can imagine.
21 states and Washington D.C. the hospitals are 80% full.
Yep.
Johns Hopkins is
Nurses
100% full.
Yeah, nurses and doctors are dealing with higher caseloads than they normally deal with. They're working longer hours. They're picking up extra shifts.
I can't get appointments with my personal doctors for
Yeah,
just issues that I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
I think last week, 5 million people in the United States called out sick. Now that wasn't all from COVID, but that's an impressive number. That impacts every aspect of our society. That impacts your ability to go to the pharmacy and pick up your medications and pick up your mother and grandmother's medications, because they might have their pharmacy techs are out or a pharmacist is out because they've been exposed or they've contracted COVID.
Okay. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I did want to get a couple of comments in from online. Jacqueline Robinson, I would encourage everyone of a certain age to have advanced medical directive, and please let the person appointed to make those decisions for you know where those documents can be located. And I would say that we should do it at any age, actually. I would recommend that.
I agree.
At any age. Jeanette Brown says, what do you think the impact of witnessing mass casualties is on so many people? And then the exhaustion of work shortages mean you can't give the people witnessing this the critical trauma recovery support that they need. And then George Fournier says, it's human nature to put off preparing such vital documents. As a lawyer, I have attended at hospitals to take instructions for powers of attorneys or wills far too many times for people on their deathbeds. So, Dr. Simpson, thank you so much for joining us and telling your stories. Are there any final words that you have for everyone out there?
I hope that if I have convinced at least one person who was on the fence about getting the vaccine to hop off the fence and go out and get one, please go out and get one. please, this is not, the misinformation out there is ridiculous. This is a life-saving vaccine. The risk is very, very, very minuscule. Millions and millions of people have received it. Please, please, if you love yourself enough to get the vaccine.
Okay. Thank you again,
Amazing.
Dr. Simpson. We wish you, Liam, and Lisa the best. Thank you so much for joining us. All right. That was very valuable information. Very, very valuable.
Very valuable. I appreciated her advice and links to websites for information. And she's going to join us in the after show. So if you guys have further questions, please join us for the after show right after we wrap up the main show
please.
here.
TLSfans.com. All right. Let's get to our main discussion topic. Liz, you've got the man with the pig heart.
Pig heart and the man with the pig heart and the man who is possibly a pig himself. So we are talking about the recent pig heart transplant that happened here in the States. The patient, David Bennett, he participated in a 9-hour pig heart transplant on January 7th of this year. So this, and it was a successful transplant. He is still with us. So one, for medical science, especially for the transplant portion of our medical, advancement in this country, this was a huge success. Something that the medical professionals have been working on for years. So my initial question, and this was actually the question that Neo first posed. The initial question I want to pose to the panel is, what is your response to the actual surgery? How do you feel about animal transplant surgery in which you have an animal's organ that's being used for a human transplant, a human transfer, if you will? And this isn't the first. This is the first successful heart surgery from an animal. But back in 1992, I believe, it was 92 or 93, there was a successful, at least for 70 days, a successful baboon liver transplant
I remember that.
performed in the United States.
That's right. That's
Unfortunately, that patient died after 70 days, but it gave the medical community a lot of hope. So what do you guys feel ethically about this particular transplant?
I'll start with Ellen.
I think that very cut and dry. If you can justify eating an animal for killing an animal for eating it, like you can't. You're gonna tell me you can't justify taking an organ for someone who needs a transplant? Shouting out to my amazing sister again. She used to work on a transplant unit, and there are so many people who, are literally just waiting their entire lives are dictated by where they fall on this list, right? And if I'm able to go across the street and eat a dead cow at McDonald's, I think that it is justified if a pig is sacrificed
You can get the heart and
for
eat
the better
eat the
cause
bacon.
than a bacon Big Mac, like a Big Mac or bacon on a Big Mac or whatever. Yeah, I think it's justified if we're gonna, assuming that if we're gonna eat meat, then yes. Come on now.
Robbie.
I've been surprised by the number of carnivores, meat eaters, who are opposed to this.
I was surprised too, actually.
But Rob, go ahead.
What's the difference?
I was just very amused by the comments while Ellen was talking. Here, wash down this heart transplant with some bacon. I think that's amazing. But I really, when I saw it, the nerd in me got excited. I got a nerd on it. Absolutely. I think that it's amazing that we live in a day and age where this type of procedure takes place. If medical science can outfit me with another mammal's organs while I await a suitable donor, I'm game. I will take that gibbon heart, whatever. If it's good for a year, if it's good for 3, if it prolongs my chances to line up with a good donor, I think that this is amazing.
So my question was along the lines of, what if, ethically speaking, right? ethically speaking, we're talking about a pig. We eat pigs like crazy. But what if we find that to get a successful liver transplant, because you talked about the baboon, or maybe we have successful kidney organs, and the best way to do those is to genetically engineer baboons or other, maybe a dog. Maybe we need dog kidneys, and we genetically engineer dogs to produce proper kidneys. Are we okay with having a factory of dogs and monkeys that we're killing to have organs for ourselves?
We already have factories of those animals for food
Right.
consumption.
We're
Right.
not eating
Maybe not,
monkeys and dogs.
Well, dude,
maybe
now
Because
not
we
you're
in
don't
this
now
need to.
country.
We have
you're
no
painting it
reason
with a
to.
North
Maybe not in
American
this
lens now.
country. Yeah,
That's
That's a
right.
maybe
North
not in
American
this
That's the
thing.
country.
question.
Sorry, dude.
There are delicacies in other countries. Now, am I sacrificing, my beautiful but badass Remy cat, for my health? Absolutely not. However, there are a lot of street cats and feral cats, and there are a lot of,
And you're
animals
good to just
that
kill them.
aren't. I
Damn.
mean, if it's me or them, let me tell you.
But you got to
Let
consider
me
you're
tell you.
producing, you're creating life to take it and give it to someone else. So you have to create the life. It's a factory. It would be like, it would be breeding, basically, similar to what we do for our food. The question was, are you okay with it? Because I know my answer is I'm fine with it. I don't care.
I'm
Yeah, I
fine
think
with it.
that's more ethical
What I don't like is that in this country, and I don't feel like it's the same way in a lot of other countries, but in this country, there's a hierarchy of animals
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh,
which
yes.
animals should be saved and which animals is like, we don't care too much. Like
Very
a life
arbitrary.
is a life. Exactly. A life is a
Yep.
life. So you can't be on your high horse, talking about a dog and a cat when you have pigs and cows and chickens on the farm. Like
Like I say,
it,
I'm not happy
it's the
about it. It's not the
same.
best. It's not great to have like just dogs and cats for organs, but or animals for organs, but I'm fine with it personally. If that's
I'm
how you
fine
have to
with it. I
custom
mean,
create some hearts and some pancreases and
exactly. I'm glad you said pancreas because,
Mhm.
again, I have type 1
Mm.
diabetes. There's no cure for my disease. There's no diet on the planet that will cure what I have versus, type 2. Type 1s and type 2s are completely different.
Right.
And I'm always astonished by the fact that in 2022 now, there's no technology for a successful pancreas transplant. There's nothing I can do to get a new pancreas that will provide my body with insulin so I no longer have diabetes. So if next year they ask me, do you want to think about a pig transplant for your pet? Hell yeah. I don't want to
Yeah.
take shots, 6, 7 times a day for the rest of my life. So I'm all for it. I
I'm
personally
with
am
you.
all for it.
I think we all are. It sounds like we all are. So you had a second question.
Yep.
Second, we have about
So the
5 minutes.
second part of this question is the actual transplant recipient in this case. So in 1988, David Bennett violently stabbed someone 7 times in a bar because he thought this guy was being inappropriate with his wife. They were at a bar. They were playing around a pool table. The wife was sitting on this guy's lap. Once the guy got up to play pool, David got a knife, approached him from behind, so this guy had no opportunity to protect himself, defend himself, and stabbed him 7 times, ultimately paralyzing him, making him, cripple from the waist down. Subsequent to that, I would say he lived for 19 years, but at a huge burden and hardship to his family. Because, back in 88, insurance wasn't what it is now for people who are, suffer from these types of incidents. His family, nearly went into bankruptcy trying to take care of him. He was ordered to pay $3.4 million in a civil suit, which he never paid. He never paid a dime for that. And then his victim died, I believe, 18 or 19 years later from a stroke as a result of the trauma
Mhm.
of this stabbing. So my question to the panel is, should this guy have been eligible in the first place?
I'll start. I'll
Rob,
start
what
with
do you
this
think?
one.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead,
Let me
Neil.
start. I usually don't like to start, but I'm gonna start with this one. So I say, what's wrong with an ex-convict being a guinea pig? Unintended. All right. But this world has a history of experimenting on convicts mostly against their will. I think the only reason people are making issue with this one is because he survived. If he died, everyone would have been like, who cares? He's done, whatever.
Mhm.
But with this being the first ever pig heart transplant, the chances of success were minimal at best. And how many transplant recipients were really lining up to be the first person to have a pig heart placed in the chest? There might have been a few. There might have been a few, but we have a friend that's dealing with heart failure, and he's pretty excited about the fact this guy, had this guy survived a pig heart transplant, and I actually asked him the question. I said, "So if you get because he's a vegetarian, I was like, so if you get a heart from a pig, you good with that?" And he was like, yes,
Hell
definitely.
yeah! Hell
So,
yeah!
now but he was definitely willing to hold out hopes for a human donor rather than taking his chance, because you got to I want you to consider this, because he taught me this. So once you put a heart in, you don't typically get do-overs, even with human hearts. Once you've gotten a heart in, pig or not, you generally can't get a second heart somewhere down the line. So you definitely can't put the old one back, right? So so it either works or you die. You get one shot at this. So personally, I would wait another few years to see more successful transplants, see the average survival rates, etc. But I am fine with doing experiments on cons or whoever, and so they can pave the way for people like us, and they can deal with the death rate of like 1 year until they get it right.
Yeah.
Let me just add to
Can I
this,
follow
because
that
some
up?
people may
Sorry,
be.
go ahead.
Let me just add very quickly, because people may be confused as to why he didn't get a human heart.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't eligible because he was not following. There are very strict guidelines and requirements to be eligible for a transplant. He was not following those guidelines. He was an alcoholic.
Yep.
He's a diabetic who was not taking his medication, and he was not showing up to doctor's appointments. So they deemed him, okay, we can't give you a human heart because
Perfect candidate
you're not
for me.
eligible. But
Let him die.
but
So they
but
can get it right the
we
next time.
can offer you. So another organization was like, well, would you consider this experimental surgery with the pig heart? So he wasn't necessarily someone who was accepting this against his will.
Yeah.
But it was his only option to live, because he wasn't doing this out of the kindness of his heart. No pun
He just wanted
intended.
to live.
He just wanted to live.
Oh man.
So that should just be
Mhm.
put out there for those who are
All right.
thinking, well, why didn't he get a human heart transplant?
Ellen, you had a quick
Ellen?
comment, and then Rob, and then we've got to shut it down.
Yeah, I think it's really complicated. So, face value, right? Obviously, this guy doesn't. If we were to look at this as a singular case, obviously, this guy doesn't deserve a heart or a transplant over someone who's like, a parent to multiple kids.
Yep.
But how does that? If we mandate, if there's some sort of mandate that determines who gets a transplant or who doesn't based on a criminal record, that's going to be a really dangerous, slippery slope. Personally, I think that testing on, like, I know that it wasn't involuntary, Neo, but the idea of testing
Right.
on criminals is some 13th Amendment bullshit. I don't know if that will be good for people who are wrongly convicted, because that might cause some problems.
I'm not suggesting do it against their will. I'm just saying it's been like that.
Right. It's been like that. Right. But I don't know how you draw the line as to who gets a transplant and who doesn't. How can you tell someone's reformed or turned their life around or really needs a transplant based on what would be qualitative data? So
I'll be real
I
quick.
don't know. I think it's dangerous.
All right, real quick. There are no laws or regulations that prohibit someone with a criminal history to receive a transplant or an experimental procedure like the one that Bennett had. Now, this was an experimental procedure. So, like Neo said, there was no guarantee of success. So, in that light, I would rather see someone like him be the first recipient rather than someone who has an opportunity to really thrive and develop into something wonderful. If we can work it out with a couple of POSs first, and then we can establish that
What's a
the
POS?
surgery
Like
works.
it's
A piece of
point of
shit.
sale? Oh, piece of shit.
Yeah,
Piece of shit.
Piece of shit. Yeah, but that's it. I mean, do it on some less desirables until you get it worked out, and then start giving it to people who really need it, because we don't want to sell these people short. And one of the key principles in medicine is to treat anyone who is sick, regardless of who they are. So, from an ethics standpoint, I can appreciate why the medical community would just do the procedure.
Yeah, totally agree. Last comment.
From a human standpoint, very quickly, from a human standpoint, I appreciate the knowledge that this will give the medical community about future surgeries like this. However, again, the bamboo liver transplant patient only lasted 7 days, 70 days, but that was back in the early 90s. We're now in 2022. So there's the potential for this guy. He's only in his early 50s. I think he's like 53, 54, something like that. I hope that from today on, any day that he has left, he is miserable, he's in
Oh,
pain,
wow.
and that he is suffering.
Wow.
Because the guy that he permanently paralyzed for 19 years caused his family so much pain, hardship, and destruction. There was no win for them, ever, ever. And so I just, thank you for your service, sir. But now rot in hell. That's how I feel about it.
All right. Is this truth? Live.
Lies, shenanigans.
This is a tough one. This is
I don't know. I think it's.
I'm
I think
excited
it's
about it. I'm
truth.
going with truth.
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
Everybody's
truth.
going with truth.
I think
We're
it's
finding
truth,
medical
but,
truths, right?
I didn't appreciate once I found out his backstory, because they heralded this guy as a hero. He is no hero. He did this because he's self-serving. He is
Yeah.
no hero.
Yeah, they shouldn't tout him as a hero. Jeanette Brown says preferably only elective experiments on cons, and moral dilemma: does a
Ooh.
violent criminal deserve an organ transplant? Oh, and Jeanette Brown also says veal, anyone? All right, let's get to our game show.
The cheating hour.
Today's game is the Wheel of Truth. All right. This is very simple. We'll spin the wheel for each of you, and you simply tell the truth, preferably with the story or reason behind it. Whoever has the most compelling backstories or reasons, judged by myself. And I'll take the audience
Okay.
comments into account.
I.e. the cheating hour. The cheating hour.
I'll take some
Yeah.
comments online into account, but they'll get the final thought for the show. So let's just get into it. We'll start with Ellen on this one.
All right.
All right, Ellen.
Our guinea pig. Guinea pig.
Birds
or
or
rabbits?
rabbits? You prefer birds or rabbits? I don't know if you have a story behind it.
For what?
I would prefer rabbits because they're not a threat. If anything, I'm a threat to them, but birds make the choice that I'm a threat to them, but they could easily also make the choice that they're a threat to me, because they can come out of nowhere. They have pterodactyl energy, which I don't get with. So yeah.
Somebody's been watching
Rabbits
Hitchcock.
are safe.
Somebody's been watching Hitchcock, The Birds, which is one of my favorite movies. But yeah.
Mr. Hitchcock,
All right.
indeed.
All right,
He
Robbie.
didn't make a movie about rabbits.
Social or antisocial?
Oh, damn. I'm a little bit of both. This is, yeah. I guess I'm social, but I generally don't like people.
All right.
Ooh.
Lizzie.
Misanthropic.
Worst gift you've ever received?
Diabetes from my mother's side of the family.
Oh,
Damn.
wow.
Damn.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one.
That's dank.
That was
Well played.
That's a horrible gift.
True.
All right, theme park or video games, Ellen?
Oh, video games. Theme parks are dirty, as are the people there.
Theme parks are dirty. All right.
Especially in this pandemic. What?
Especially these
Yeah.
days, yeah.
Fuck out of here.
RB. showers or baths? Do you enjoy showers
We
or
talked about
baths
this
more?
on our page this week, Rob.
Well, I mean, showers are definitely more functional, and I'm usually enticed to take a bath with my wife, so I would say I enjoy baths more.
Okay.
Wow.
All right.
Okay.
I buy that. Lizzie, what celebrity would you marry? Oh gosh.
I mean, since Jason Momoa is hello,
Jason Momoa.
yes, he's free
Jason-
now. You know,
Yeah, wait
with
till he gets
with
scooped
Lisa
up by Pete Davidson
Bonet.
like everyone else.
Pete
Bill,
Davidson.
not the community peen. We will not be doing Pete Davidson. Anyway,
All
no,
right.
Jason Momoa today. We'll see who it is tomorrow.
All right, one more round. Oh no, we're giving you another one. I don't like this one. Birthday.
Yeah, I got. Oh,
Yes, I have one.
Are you serious? It really is.
Yeah. Random number generator, my ass.
All right. How do you think you'll die?
oh, morbid.
I
I'm
like
gonna
that.
die of
one.
laughter. That's what I'll say.
You're gonna die of laughter.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
All right.
Or overeating.
Or overeating. That's what I'll die of. TV shows or movies, Rob B?
TV shows.
TV shows. All right.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And
Good answer.
Lizzie, your final one. Money or fame?
Dollar bills, y'all. Dollar
Dollar bills, y'all. All right.
Easy.
I'm going with Ellen is the winner of this game. Ellen.
Yes.
Ellen, great
Clap,
answers,
Ellen.
Ellen. Good
Clap,
job,
clap.
Ellen. All right. Before we close out, let's get some shout outs. All right, Ellen, shout outs.
Yeah. Shout out to all the people coming back to UMD next week. We're all supposed to be able to get tested within a 48-hour period, which is crazy because PG County infrastructure is not going to support 40,000 people trying to get tested in 2 days. So shout out to the people who haven't scheduled their appointments yet, because I sure fucking have. So
All right, Robbie.
I want to give a shout out to my friend Aaron, who stopped by this afternoon and dropped off this amazing Star Destroyer papercraft thing. So, you know, every time I tell you guys, just do something nice, call someone, let them know you're thinking of them. Aaron's someone I've known for the last 15 years and great guy, and just we kind of keep in touch. And he appreciates me so much that he thought of me when he saw this item on clearance and dropped it off today.
Aw.
I'm looking forward to putting that together. Thanks, buddy.
All right, Lizzie.
Shout out to MLK Day tomorrow. Yesterday was Dr. King's birthday, but we celebrate it as a national federal holiday here in the States tomorrow. Just reminding people that in addition to celebrating his legacy, it's also supposed to be a day of service. It's also supposed to be a day of service. So do what you can, whether you're from home or you're out in the streets in person. Make a difference. Make a difference.
Every year, I love that you mentioned that day of service. Every year, my wife at Posh Cycling and Fitness, they do a day of service. And in the past, we made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. But of course, now the shelters aren't taking food. So what we're doing now is a toiletry bag. So she came with the idea of putting together toiletry bags. So
Nice.
really good idea. All right, my shout out is to my brother Solomon for no reason other than I love him. So
What's up, Solomon?
all right,
Solomon
final.
and I have had a couple of back and forth.
Oh, Solomon,
back
yeah,
and
Solomon,
forth.
yeah. Now he'll
So
fight
what's
with
up,
you. He's like
Solomon?
me. He's like me. He'll get into it. All right. Final shout out goes to the winner of our pet shenanigans of the week. This week, the shout out goes out to Shyla. Liana Jones posted a picture of her dog Shyla lying on the stairs with the caption, "If unbothered were a beagle, Shiloh," because Shiloh won't budge from her spot. So we find ourselves taking big steps over her. To see all of the pets and post your favorite pets photo, join the TLS Pet Shenanigans Facebook group, mypetshenanigans.com. And that is officially all of the time that we have for today's show. Oh, do we have a quick fire coming up?
No,
All right.
get out of here.
Penis head there. That's on penis
Get
head
that toe
there.
out of here.
Penis head. All right. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us. We hope that you maybe learned something new, gained a new perspective, even got some things off of your chest. We'll be back next week for another amazing guest, more deep discussions. Don't forget the audio version of the podcast is available every Monday. Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, don't forget to subscribe to Beyond the Scars so you can hear this Wednesday's episode with Nisi sharing her experience with childhood molestation and how she survived. www.beyondthescars.show. And the conversation is not ending here. We're going to continue to keep the cameras rolling in the after show exclusively on TLSFans.com Facebook group. And we have Marjorie Simpson, Dr. Marjorie Simpson, joining us. All right, looks like our winner for the final thought of the day is Miss Ellen Dahl.
Take us home, Ellen. Take us home.
Do smart things. Get your booster shot if you haven't already gotten it. Do things that make sense in regards to COVID, please, because I'm tired of being inside.
Yeah, man, I'm tired of COVID. Whew. All right. Thank you, Liz, Ellen, Robbie, and our people behind the scenes, Nesme, Gianni, Jose, and Olivia. But most importantly, we have to thank you for watching and listening to our shenanigans each week, and we will see you next time.